It's the final week of the NHL regular season, and on Tuesdays here on Locked On Boston Bruins, we do the Eastern Conference Power Rankings. So let's rank them one more time on today's episode.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Tuesday, April 11th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more by visiting fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. On today's episode, we are going to look at the Eastern Conference Power Rankings and assess where the Bruins rank. Spoiler alert, top of the table to you. And we are also not just going to look at the standings, points, goal differential, but dig into some of the underlying numbers as well to see, who could be in line to challenge the Bruins for Eastern Conference supremacy. Also look at the playoff picture and a preview of tonight's game against the Washington Capitals. First, a quick reminder that you can find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my dad jokes, and hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. All right, let's dive into the Eastern Conference, and there's a couple teams who will be in line for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, most notably the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are tied for dead last in the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks at 56 points. There's a bit of a gap between them and the 15th place Montreal Canadiens, whom the Bruins will face on Thursday in the final game of the regular season. I should add, when it comes to Columbus, their goal differential is minus 113. Boston at plus 124. What a swing we have there. 14th, the Philadelphia Flyers. Then you have kind of the mid-tier teams that just weren't good enough to make the playoffs in Washington at 79 points, Detroit at 80 points, and the Ottawa Senators at 85 points. Those are your bottom 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. Here things get a bit more interesting. Teams that are still alive technically in the playoff race. The Buffalo Sabres beat the New York Rangers last night. They're technically still alive. They have 3 games remaining on their schedule, and they're 4 points back of the New York Islanders, who only have 1 game remaining. So let's say Buffalo wins out. The Islanders lose. Then they could technically overtake them. They could finish with 93 points right now. Both Florida and the Islanders only have 1 game left. Florida's at 92 points. The Islanders are at 91 points. So the Buffalo Sabres very much still alive here, despite having a minus 4 goal differential. The Pittsburgh Penguins control their own destiny as well. They have 2 games left. If they win out against Chicago and Columbus, then they are in the playoffs. So Florida, the Islanders right now in the wild card spots, but Pittsburgh has a better point percentage than the Islanders. So technically they're in 8th spot. And If they win out, then they are in. Florida's in a pretty good spot. But again, they could lose out as well. If they lose their final game and Buffalo wins their 3 remaining games, then they could be in. So there's still some turnover there among those teams. But right now, point percentage wise, it's Florida, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and then the Sabres. Among the top 6, Tampa Bay, 6th place at the moment with a 600 point percentage. And then between 2nd and 4th, it's incredibly tight. 2 points separate those 4 teams. And you have the Rangers with a 660 point percentage in 5th. The Maple Leafs at 669 in 4th. The New Jersey Devils at 675 in 3rd. Columbus Blue Jackets 681 in 2nd. New Jersey, Carolina could still conceivably flip. New Jersey could end up being the 2nd place team. The Rangers, Leafs tied, although Toronto has a game in hand. So there's still some maneuverability among those 4 teams as well. And while Toronto, Tampa Bay is locked in, it could be Carolina and the Rangers, or New Jersey and the Rangers in the Metropolitan Division. But of course, our Boston Bruins, far and away the best team in the Eastern Conference and the NHL this season. 63, 12-5, 131 points. That is 22 higher than 2nd place Carolina. An 819 point percentage compared to Carolina's 681. Goal differential of plus 124, which is double plus New Jersey at plus 60. It's insane how much better the Bruins have performed in terms of goals scored, leading the Eastern Conference, 295, 9 more than the Florida Panthers. Goals allowed, 171. The next closest is Carolina at 208. And they're not coasting into the playoffs either, friends. They're at 9-1 over their last 10. They've won 6 in a row, and they have 2 very winnable games remaining on the schedule at Washington. At home against Washington, and then in Montreal to finish the season. Tonight is the regular season home finale, and we will preview that one later on in the podcast. So those are the surface numbers. The Bruins 22 points ahead of Carolina. Goal differential dwarfs the opposition. Best offense in the East. Best defense in the East. But what about the underlying numbers? What do those suggest about who could conceivably challenge the Bruins? Well, we'll look at that next. But first, a quick word about today's sponsor, which is the FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of Locked On and Major League Baseball. And from grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays, there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up and partner with FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On and Major League Baseball. So we talked about the surface numbers. Let's look at the underlying numbers. And for that, I always turn to our friends over at Natural Stat Trick. And let me share my screen here so you can get a glimpse of what I am looking at over here. Natural Stat Trick covers everything from shot attempts, shots, scoring chances. But let's look at shot attempt differential at 5-on-5, which is where the majority of hockey games are played. We know the Bruins have the top penalty kill in the NHL. Their power play hasn't been great. 5-on-5, the Bruins shot attempt differential is literally middle of the pack. They rank 16th, 51.06. They've allowed 3,427 shot attempts 5-on-5, and they've generated 3,576. That's how we get this 51.06 number. Out of all the shot attempts 5-on-5 in games the Bruins have played, they've generated 51.06. The top team, Carolina Hurricanes, 60% of the shot attempts, which means generally you have the puck more than the opposition and firing it towards the net with much more regularity than the opposition. Now, it's not always a signifier of success. You see the Calgary Flames, who were eliminated from the postseason last night, second place. They've had some extremely bad luck this season, losing a ton of one-goal games, overtime games, eliminated last night in a shootout. But Florida, New Jersey, Seattle, Colorado, LA, Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, rounding out the top 10. These are all playoff teams. That doesn't tell the whole story, though. Shot attempts might not even hit the net. So what about shot differential at 5-on-5? It's a bit better story for the Boston Bruins. They rank 8th in this category with a percentage of 52.51. 2,000 shots on goal at 5-on-5, just over 1,800 allowed. Again here, though, Carolina, number 1, 58.11. So they're getting the puck on net with great regularity. You see the Devils up there as well, the Kings, Seattle, and the Panthers and the Maple Leafs all ahead of Boston. But shots don't tell the whole story either. What about scoring chances? You can shoot the puck from the point. Doesn't necessarily mean it is a legitimate scoring chance. The Bruins here, once again, ranking 8th in scoring chance differential. 1,960 versus 1,728 for a 53.15. Carolina, New Jersey, Florida, Toronto, Edmonton, Tampa, all ahead of the Bruins in this. All right, well, what about high danger shot attempts? The Bruins, 10th in this category. High danger shot attempts. You add all this up and you get expected goals. Shot attempts, actual shots, high danger chances, etc. Expected goals, Bruins rank 8th in the NHL at 5-on-5 with an expected goals percentage of 53.2. Carolina, New Jersey, Florida, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Edmonton, all ranking ahead of them. So you can see with these underlying numbers, the Bruins, not exactly the elite of the elite. You have Carolina, who pretty much leads in all of these categories. So how has Boston succeeded? Well, they have the 3rd ranked shooting percentage, 5-on-5 this season, and the number 1 save percentage. That gives them a PDO of 103.5. You're adding up the shooting percentage and save percentage. Now, a lot of people would look at that and say the Bruins have been very lucky. Well, maybe not very lucky, but have been pretty lucky this season. They're not leading. They're not top 5 in any of these shot attempt, shot differentials, high danger chances, scoring chances, expected goals, but they have the 3rd best success rate 5-on-5, and their goaltending has been unreal. Usually, if you look around the middle of the pack, teams will level off around 1 an even 100, about 10% or 8% shooting percentage, balanced with save percentage around 92. Boston far exceeding that, which leads some people to say, well, they're bound to regress here at some point, and perhaps that will happen in the playoffs. What happens if the 5-on-5 goals drop a bit? What happens more specifically if Linus Ullmark or Jeremy Swayman, if he comes in to action at some point? What happens if they stop making those big saves? Well, it's certainly possible. I'm not going to say that it's not possible for Linus Ullmark to suddenly fall back down to earth a bit. It's incredibly difficult to sustain a 938 save percentage over the course of a full regular season, albeit with somewhat limited starts. He's not playing, like 80% of the games as goalies did in the past. And perhaps they will suffer from a goal drought running into a hot goalie. At the same time, it's been happening for 82 games. This is a huge sample size for the Bruins where they've been scoring. They have, when everybody's healthy, they'll have, like I talked about last week, one of the best third lines in the NHL. They'll have a 16-goal scorer in Trent Frederick on the fourth line. Hopefully Nick Foligno back. Garnet Hathaway who can chip in. Taylor Hall on the third line. Like, this team is as deep and good as any we've ever seen in black and gold. And so some of these underlying numbers, which perhaps don't suggest the best, possession stats and the like, it's all just taken away by the fact that they have been so good this season. They've scored more goals than anybody in the East. They've allowed fewer goals than anybody in the East. And we have to believe that that will continue in the playoffs. Again, 7-game series, anything can happen. You can get goalied. You can have bad puck luck where it's just not going in. Look at Game 7, 2019. Opening period. A couple big stops by Jordan Binnington. He who should not be named. Perhaps I should refer to him as that. And a couple goals the other way. Pretty much game over. It can happen. It does happen in the playoffs, but they're still a very good team. Underlying numbers, top 10, top 5 in some categories. And they have the depth where they can match up with any team in the NHL. They can get those third line goals. Teams have big decisions to make. Who do you cover? Do you cover the first line? Do you cover the second line, the third line? And the Bruins can get offense up and down the lineup. That will be the biggest differentiator for me. And they play team defense. They play in a way that supports the goaltending. And I still believe they are the best team in the Eastern Conference and should be the team to come out and win the Stanley Cup. I'm just going to say it right now. Hope that made sense. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Are the Bruins the best team in the Eastern Conference? Yes. Is there things to be worried about? Potentially. But they're the team to beat. And they will wrap up the home schedule tonight with a game against the Washington Capitals. We'll preview that here in a moment, but I want to thank you again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. So please do smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing. The Boston Bruins, Washington Capitals facing off tonight. Capitals eliminated from the postseason, first time since 2014, I believe. 2-6-2 over their last 10. These teams have split the season series so far. Boston winning 5-2 back in October. Washington actually won 2-1 in February. David Pastrnak, red hot for the Bruins right now. They're 7 goals, 10 points over his last 5 games. Tyler Bertuzzi leads the Bruins in assists over the past 5 games with 6, playing with Pastrnak. And I would love to see that partnership continue. I don't know if it would require Zacha to go to the third line. You want to break up the checkmates line? Who knows? For the Capitals, Dylan Strome with 4 points to lead the way over the past 5 games. They're just kind of limping into the postseason, looking to regroup and challenge for a playoff spot next season. Washington's power play still fairly lethal. They do rank 17th, but you, of course, always have to watch out for Ovechkin in his office. Their penalty kill is very good, 4th ranked. So the Bruins, if they're looking to get their 11th ranked power play going, it'll be a good test tonight against the Washington Capitals. Washington has a 20th ranked offense, 17th ranked goals allowed per game. Boston kicking it, 2nd ranked goals 4 per game, 3.64. Top ranked goals allowed per game at 2.1. The only team to score more goals per game than the Bruins this season, the Edmonton Oilers, 3.98 compared to Boston's 3.64. And we'll talk about a cup check later on in the week, the top 5 teams as the season winds down and how the Bruins rank among them. But Edmonton is a team to watch out west. They're coming in pretty hot, 300-point scorers. Their team defense still leaves a bit to be desired, but what a final that would be. Boston, Edmonton, really bringing back some memories for me of that 1990 Stanley Cup final that, was one of the toughest, still get emotional, toughest things I witnessed as a young Bruins fan. It is fan appreciation night at the Garden tonight. Shirt off your back night for the Bruins. Lucky fans will be taking home some jerseys. I would imagine it will be a fairly normal lineup to please the home crowd. The Thursday night in Montreal will be very AHL heavy, I'm sure. There will be some guys that will be out. David Krejci still nursing nagging injury. Taylor Hall took Sunday off after playing Saturday. Bergeron's been in and out. Guys taking some much needed rest with the playoffs set for less than 1 week away. Thank you so much for tuning in, friends. If you have any mailbag questions as we get closer to the playoffs, please do send those in. I'll answer those tomorrow. Just continue to get you ready for the postseason here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Have a great Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow.